On May 6, 2004, I bought these two Sidecar motorcycles that had served in large work units from Maxing Guoshi Feng County Tiling City Liaoning Province. I followed your advice and removed the engine, starting the repair from there. Of course, the engine did not disappoint us. From the belly of this crankcase, water came out first. Then the oil began to flow out. The sludge in the front cover had dried for ages, so I had no choice but to summon my clone in front of you to speed up the disassembly of the whole bike. On July 19th last year, I rebuilt this engine according to factory specs. The process went pretty smoothly, because we have two of these bikes. So according to your plan, one would be restored to stock, and the other would be modified to your taste. I removed the Sidecar from this bike, then I cut off its rear subframe. I put the rebuilt engine back in that day, and tied out the new silhouette with wire. Of course, you cannot touch red-hot wire with your hands. That is the feeling. Then I used sculpting clay to form the overall shape, to make later aluminum bodywork easier. With sculpting clay I expressed the effect I wanted for the bike. That is the feel. More or less there. Today, we will use this 2.5 thick sheet to create the outer shell of the whole bike. Put on your gloves. We are starting work. With my limited experience, the tools needed to make this body are simple, but most of them we have to make ourselves based on the situation. For the curve of the fuel tank here, I propped the steel bar underneath, then used a nylon hammer to tap it out bit by bit. For the side skirt of the tank, I first formed the big panel and then welded it on. I used a laser welder. It is super simple and easy to use. Time will kill the spot. This ring is the filler neck. I welded the filler neck seamlessly, so the tank started to look the part, but it still looked a bit plain. So, I cut another piece of aluminum, pressed a step with a drop, then welded it to the filler opening. With this top screw, the tank no longer looks monotonous. For the bottom of the tank, I milled it from a single piece of aluminum. Later on, I will tell you how I made it. For now I want to share. Who knows this simple trick? But I can secretly show you. I welded these two steel pipes together to form this shape. I used a brushing wheel to finish the surface once. Install the Changjiang 750 factory gas cap, and the tank is completely done. The texture is excellent. I temporarily placed the two parts we made today on the bike to take a quick look. Even my gloves got worn through, but now it really has that vibe. It is getting dark. I will clock off and go home to rest. The only good thing, everyone knows the front wheel is tall. So, I put it on a chopping block and hammered it hard until we got the curve we wanted. Something like this. Let me tell you one more thing. When hammering the fender, the key is this chopping block. I dug a pit in it. That way it shapes more easily. Keep this secret. But this fender after hammering was full of bumps. So, I fed it through this machine for repeated rolling pressure to flatten all the dents. Fortunately, we were smart. We used aluminum alloy, so the shaping was easier. I flattened it, mounted it to the bike to check the curve, marked the cut line and trimmed. Because it is aluminum alloy, while cutting my hands got numb from vibration, besides the scrap. This is all I actually need, since the front fork will be swapped for a thicker one later. This spot on the fender needs a groove. The groove is simple. Insert it into the seam and lever it up and down and it is okay. I use laser welding for the joints. It is super simple. Of course, large gaps still need traditional TIG welding. Same old routine. Grind, then brush, then polish. And then, we got this aluminum front fender. The texture is excellent. On the bike it really pops. Now, we have completed roughly 1/3 of this side. Next is the side panel. Draw the lines first. Set up the rollers. Then repeatedly roll it until it becomes a smooth arc. I do not know how many passes. Anyway, I rolled that aluminum sheet into this curved shape with a reverse curve. Its rigidity is solid. Then I cut out the engine opening, and then the cooling vents. Same procedure again. Weld then grind. Then polish then brush. Finally we got this side panel. Mounted on the bike, it really looks like a proper ride now. We have roughly finished 2/3 of the whole bike. This machine is truly useful. I secretly learned from foreigners and built it myself. Do you want to make one too? Let me tell you how I made it. Last spring, I bought an 8mm by 100 flat steel bar. I laid out the structure one had studied in that sweltering summer. I still did not forget to remind you. Friendly tip: wear your sunglasses. I welded the joints of these square steels 3 times to reduce deformation effectively. Since most materials would heat up, I sprayed zinc yellow primer first, then epoxy primer. Unfortunately, when spraying the green top coat, I forgot something. On the lathe, I machined the top and bottom surfaces of the rollers. To reach this level of shine, only with shiny rollers can the sheet roll flat enough. Then I sent the finished rollers for induction heat treatment. I made 4 rollers in total. I think are 40 or 6 or 8, and 1 flat roller. Here I used a hand crank jack. That is the overall structure of this machine. So simple. Now, we will make the headlight cowl. Still starting with an aluminum bowl. The rest relies on hammering. I do not know how many blows it took, nor how many rolling passes. In the end, we got this head cowl with a reflective surface. I split it into 3 petals and welded them together. This greatly reduced machining difficulty. Grind off the welds. Then polish, then brush. Now we have a cowl that is round in front and square at the back. Mount it to see the effect. Looks great. When the custom windscreen arrives, it should look even better. We did great. But there were many times I was not great. I have scrapped almost every part on this bike. They are all over here. Tomorrow our workload will be huge. The brakes need to move forward. The suspension needs to be redone. The front tank still needs proper mounts. That is it for today. I will clock off now. Wishing you good health and prosperity.